Julius Caesar gave the same name to all the tribes in the inaccessible regions east of the Rhine, Germani. They were forever making incursions into Roman territory. Even before the birth of Christ, Augustus Caesar decided to protect the exposed eastern flank of the empire in Gaul. In a series of campaigns, the Germanic tribes were to be subdued. Some put up a struggle. Others, like the Cherusci, allied themselves with Rome. This tribe now live under the iron fist of the Pax Romana. A young boy lives here. Later, he will be called Arminius. When he's about 10 years old, his life is changed forever. Arminius is of noble blood. His father, Segemerus, belongs to Cheruscan aristocracy. But Segemerus is firmly opposed to the alliance with Rome. The nobles have chosen Segestes as the leader of their clan. Segemerus must accept his leadership and his decisions. But Segestes is not welcome in this company. Segestes has chosen the alliance with Rome, and now he has come to fulfill the conditions of the alliance. He has come for Segemerus' sons. They must be handed over to the occupiers at once. It is, he says, a necessary sacrifice that must be made for the good of the whole tribe. It means that Segemerus may never see the boys again. They will become Romans. Taking hostages was a favorite Roman ploy. Chiefs like Segestes were their agents, with everything to gain from cooperating.
We
know relatively little about the early history of the Cherusci. They suddenly turn up in the time of Augustus. For a while they were Rome's enemies, but then they formed an alliance with Rome. Segestes was the leading figure among the Cherusci at the time of the Roman conquest. When a colossal superpower like Rome collides with a relatively small tribe, it's not really surprising if part of the clan, or the whole tribe, decide to form an alliance with the enemy.
Everything we know about the Germans comes from ancient Roman texts. Writers like Paterculus, Tacitus, or Cassius Dio used accounts by Roman soldiers returning from Germania. The Germanic tribes had no writing, so they have left no version of the story of Arminius. Arminius and his brother Flavius, the Fair One, will be brought up as Romans, so they can return to their homeland one day as representatives of Roman power. To the Romans, this seems a sure way to consolidate their control. Who else can they trust when families and clans among their Cheruscan allies are split between the enemies and friends of Rome? But it's misleading even to speak of a unified people and call them Germans. There are dozens of tribes constantly fighting each other. For the Romans, this really is a terra incognita, an unknown world.
From the Roman point of view, they were entering a territory of a sort they had never conquered before. Gaul had a quite different structure. It was Celtic, it already had permanent towns, and its tribes were much more hierarchically stable than tribes in Germania.
The Germanic people lived for themselves, separated from each other, said the Roman historian Tacitus. The bigger settlements numbered up to 25 houses, with humans and animals living under the same roof. Towns and cities like those in the rest of the empire are unknown here. And for the Romans, the people are uncivilized savages living more like animals than humans. Tacitus tells us they live in a wild landscape between the rivers Rhine and Elbe, a landscape covered with vast, dense forests of oak and birch. The place Tacitus describes is deeply foreign. The marshes that cover this territory are repulsive. The forests make one shiver with fear.
What disturbed the Romans most was that there were no roads, no trade routes, and there were no fixed points to aim for, no castles or strongholds to take, just this dreadful forest that took 9 days to cross without encountering a single human being. It was a nightmare for the Romans.
The impenetrable forests were totally unsuited to Roman military tactics and logistics. Being sent to Germania in the freezing north was seen by most Roman soldiers as a punishment. And they were scared because they had never seen forests. After centuries of building Roman cities and naval fleets, there were scarcely any forests left in Italy. They were stationed in northern Europe. They knew they didn't belong here. Julius Caesar wrote, "Even if they walk for 60 days, no one can say they have come to the end of this forest. And no one can even know where it ends."
Throughout the Mediterranean region, Rome had an urban culture. They lived in towns, and compared to that, what they found in Germania was very primitive. It was simple. The basic elements of Roman civilization and achievements were missing. It was a real collision of two cultures.
For Arminius and Flavius, their route towards the Roman world would have taken them first through the forests to the river Rhine. This is where the Roman world began. Where the first solid evidence of Rome's engineering mastery was a great fortress and a bridge spanning the river. From this army camp at Vetera, many thousands of legionaries protect Rome's frontier along the river. It's only one of many camps along the Rhine. The Romans founded cities like Cologne, Koblenz and Mainz, shop windows for Roman civilization. But the message they give is not keep away. they're a magnet for the barbarians, who engage in flourishing trade with the Romans. Long blonde hair is especially valuable. The Germans accept coins they've never seen before for their hides and furs. Tribesmen with nothing to sell work as laborers for the Romans. It's a tempting new world.
It must have made an incredibly powerful impression on the Germanic tribesmen. The way the Romans built their towns, the complicated organization behind it, their skill at calculation and measurement, their skill at providing a supply of running water. All that would have made an enormous impression. You can imagine the tribesmen standing there open-mouthed. They must have been absolutely astounded.
The separation from his family must have been painful for Arminius. But there were plenty of new impressions to distract him. And the barbarian brothers will have been an attraction in their own right. The sons of nobles get privileged treatment. Including their first miraculous experience of heated floors. This is the journey of a lifetime, up the river Moselle, through the cities of the Roman province of Gaul, then across the Mediterranean to the capital city of the ancient world.
It was a popular tactic for the Romans. They brought nobles' sons to Rome and educated them at the prince's school on the Palatine Hill. They served two purposes. On the one hand, they were hostages, guaranteeing the good behavior of their fathers, but on the other hand, they were brought up as Romans, and when they went back to their own people, they were expected to behave as Romans. It would have been like that with Arminius, because when he was a boy, the Romans were certainly taking noble hostages in Germania.
Arminius and Flavius may have reached Rome about 9 BC. First they passed the workers' stone tenements in the teeming suburbs. Then they neared the center of the biggest city in the world, with its 1 million inhabitants. Arminius arrives in a city that is flourishing as never before. Great parade routes crisscross the city. Marble glistens in the Mediterranean sun. There had never been a longer period of peace, and never had the Roman Empire been as big as it was under the Emperor Augustus.
Under Augustus, the Roman Empire had expanded to a size it had never known before. And Augustus extended the Roman Empire far further than any single Roman had done before him. Just think about it. Northern Spain, the Alps, great swathes of territory as far as the Danube, Inner Anatolia, Judea, Egypt, Africa. He added all this to the Roman Empire. It reached an enormous geographical span. And yet later, the time of Augustus would be associated with peace. And that's because he made peace in Rome after decades of civil war, Roman against Roman. But in his foreign policy, Augustus was anything but an emperor of peace. He waged war non-stop throughout his reign.
Eigentlich dauernd, ununterbrochen Krieg geführt.
As a young man, Arminius becomes part of Rome's gigantic war machine. He soon grasps the key to Rome's military success: discipline.
Antreten!
It can't have been easy for